Poem, The Good Man. Sitting there quietly, in the background he was, working away, listening with AirPods. Every Monday and Thursday, that's what he did, and that's what he still does. She barely noticed him at first, for in the background he almost faded away, until one day she noticed his smile, his kind eyes, his demeanor. About him was something special. About him he seemed to have a certain way. He seemed like a different kind of man than who she ever knew, than of any man she'd ever loved, a way of being genuine, of kindness, of care. And so she wondered about this man, and curiosity began to grow. She wondered about his life, if he had more words to share. So then one day she decided to message him directly, as they'd met in their online group, just to check in on how he's doing. Hey there, tell me more about life. Tell me more about you. But he didn't respond often, on average once every few weeks. For then another step she decided to do. She gave him her main number, skipping all the usual steps, all the hoops she'd made for all the others. They were meant to take things slow, to wait and see. So then they started texting, long messages back and forth each day. Then he asked to talk to her on the phone, one weekend when she was busy painting, trying to make her house feel less empty, to make it feel more comfortable for her to stay. So as she continued painting, on the phone they began to share stories of their exes, their lives, their trauma, their past slowly revealed. As their hearts began to open, for each other they began to grow and care. Then pretty soon, more and more time on the phone he requested, almost every day to hear her voice. But she still had a boyfriend, one she still saw sometimes on the weekend. And her heart knew she'd eventually have to make a tough decision. She'd have to make a choice. She knew from the beginning that this new man might steal her heart, but she told herself they were just friends because of all the distance, all the complications. She knew it'd be such a struggle. She knew it'd be so hard. And so she continued to try to make it work with the boyfriend who had won her over with all the laughs. But the good times were so good, and the bad times were so bad. A cycle she was so used to, accustomed to all her life. She thought that if she just kept asking, kept trying, make herself smaller, then everything would be okay. Everything would be all right. Even after the first time it ended with the boyfriend who made her laugh, she couldn't stop herself from giving him another try, from giving him a second chance. For maybe if she could make this work, she could find some healing. For this man was so similar in both the good and the bad. If only she could make it work, then maybe she could rewrite the tragic ending of the love of her life from her past. But even in the second chance, still he was so hot and so cold. And her heart told her no, not again, no more. But her brain took over and once again overrode. For she couldn't let him go, for she craved the same drug that got her hooked so many times before. The cycle of inconsistency that kept her chasing. The highs were so high, but the lows were so low. Willing to do almost anything to feel those highs once again. She kept herself coming back, time and time again. Each time still craving more. But meanwhile she kept talking to the good, kind man upon the phone. The one who was so considerate, so thoughtful. He was so consistent, so present, when her boyfriend disappeared once again, like so many times before. And then one day she realized as she talked to her boyfriend on the phone that she missed the kind, good man, the one that asked her questions and really listened when she answered. The conversation less one-sided. With him she felt less guarded. With him she felt more at home. And so she found a reason for the first time to say goodbye early that night to the boyfriend, the one who was so hot and so cold, then called the good, kind man, feeling more at ease, her body less anxious, as together about their days they shared, and laughed at the silly stories they both told. So her heart began to open, and love began to grow, open to the possibility that maybe something more can happen here. But her brain said, no, that's too real, that's too foreign, that's too scary. You have to make it work with what's familiar. You have to make it work with the man right in front of you, with the version of the man you've always known. And so she delayed the good man's advances, telling herself that they were just great friends, as she saw her boyfriend one more time, one last weekend, during which she tried so hard to compromise, to make her needs smaller. She bent as far as she could go. See, I could be the cool, easygoing girlfriend, she told him. She just needed him to know. But her boyfriend said he couldn't do it, couldn't make her happy with what she wanted, is more than he could bear. Unwilling to prioritize her over the others, she'd have to settle for what was left, and that was that, his line in the sand, even though he still said he liked her, and hugged her like he still cared. And so she wondered and wondered, her mind unable to let go, trying to make sense of what was and what could be. She asked herself over and over, why wasn't I good enough? Why wasn't I worth the effort? Why are all the men I love never willing to truly try for me? And so she wrestled and wrestled inside herself with who she was and who she wanted to be. Do I choose what's familiar, where I know how to act, where I know how to be? Or do I step off a cliff into the unknown, the depth too great to bear, where I risk everything and my whole heart for the good, kind man, for the chance of true love, the chance to truly experience care, having to give it my everything and truly risk it all and give up so much, for maybe the chance to have this beautiful life with him to share? And as she questioned and wrestled inside her mind, the good, kind man stayed consistent and patiently waited as she tried to figure out what to do, even telling her it was okay if this was all too much. I won't be mad. I'll still be your friend. I'll still care for you. And that just made her fall for him even more, because how could she say no to a man who treated her with such gentleness, such care, unlike any man she'd ever met, unlike anything she'd ever experienced, an idea so foreign to have this in her life to share. And so she finally made her decision and said her last goodbye to the boyfriend who made her laugh, finally closing the door on those chapters of her life in which she made herself smaller for someone else, for another man. And she picked up the phone and called the good, kind man and told him to book that flight. Okay, I'm ready, she said. Let's finally meet. Let's do this. As she took a deep breath and knew that no matter what, things would be okay. Things would be all right. So this is the end of the story of chapter 1 of The Good, Kind Man. So now you know who he is and how he came to be in her life. A relationship that may blossom into something truly special as she experiences real love and continues to heal and learns to truly love herself inside.